There are several Atlantic Division teams struggling right now, and still the Boston Bruins are unable to pull themselves out of the basement.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Thursday, October 30th. Thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins your first listen every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on this episode, we are going to bring the latest Atlantic Division power rankings, looking at the bottom four teams, the top four teams, where the Bruins rank among them. Spoiler alert, they are at the bottom. We will also preview tonight's pretty big game against the Buffalo Sabres and also touch on the 7-0 Providence Bruins and whether or not there should be some help recalled from there. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com. and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Before we get into it, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on socials at Locked NHL Bruins. That's on X, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. You can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. I am a lifelong Boston Bruins fan, and I've been covering this team and the NHL for various outlets for nearly 20 years. All right, let's do our weekly look at the Atlantic Division power rankings, and unfortunately, brings me no joy to tell you that our Boston Bruins are firmly in last place. In fact, there are 5 of the 8 teams in the Atlantic who are at 500, exactly 500 point percentage, meaning they've played 10 or 11 games and have accrued 10 or 11 points so far this season. The Bruins have played 12 games, which I believe is more than any other team around the NHL, and they have a point percentage of 417. They've got a record of 5-7-0, 10 points through 12 games. Only 4 teams in the NHL have worse point percentages than our Boston Bruins. In the Atlantic alone, they're the only team below 500, and they also have the lowest goal differential as well at -5. Scoring's not been a huge issue for this team. They have 39 goals, which is actually only 2 away from tops in the Atlantic. The Senators have scored 41 goals, the Montreal Canadiens have scored 40, and the Bruins have scored 39. The problem is they have allowed the most goals among any team in the Atlantic. Ottawa is right there with 44, as are our Boston Bruins. So their goal differential currently sits at -5. Bruins firmly in last place here in the Atlantic Division. And it's really too bad the Bruins are off to this up and down start, because the powerhouses, or supposed powerhouses, in the Atlantic Division are also off to tough starts. Right now, I'm putting in 7th place the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are coming off a 6-2, 6-3 loss to Columbus last night. They're 5-5-1 through 11 games, so they have a 500 point percentage, but a -4 goal differential after last night's effort, 4-5-1 over their past 10 games. And they're joined pretty much by the Florida Panthers, who are also 5-5-1, 500 point percentage with a -4 goal differential, 4-5-1 over their past 10 games. Now, they are without, of course, Alexander Barkov. They're without Matthew Tkachuk, and they've been without Brad Marchand for a few games as he flew home to Nova Scotia to be with family friends who lost their 10-year-old daughter to cancer. So shout out to Brad for making that a priority, for going home, for coaching in that game, for all of this. And we hope that he can get back to his team after providing some good support for, very close friends. Now, so we got Boston, Toronto, Florida. Still a mixed bag here in the middle of the Atlantic. The Ottawa Senators, they are also 5-5-1, 11 points, 500-point percentage. They have a -3 goal differential. They are the highest scoring team in the Atlantic, but they're also the worst defensive team in the Atlantic based on goals allowed, tied with the Bruins at 44. And we all recall the tremendous goaltending tandem of Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark. Both of these guys struggling to begin the season, although Swayman, I believe, has a bit of an edge in terms of save percentage. Jonas Korpisalo played very well in the win over the New York Islanders. When you look at the goaltending for the Bruins versus the Senators right now, Swayman's got a record of 3-4 with a save percentage of .886. Jonas Korpisalo is 2-3 with a save percentage of .870. And if you go over to the Ottawa Senators side of things, we know Levi Merilainen started the game on Monday, got the win. He is 1-1 with an .833 save percentage. Linus Ullmark 4-1 with an .858 save percentage. So both their starter and their backup have worse numbers than Boston's starter and backup. And that's why they're only 1 point ahead of the Bruins, albeit, again, the Bruins have more games played. So that's kind of the bottom four at the moment in the Atlantic. You have Boston, Toronto, Florida, and Ottawa. And right along beside them at 500, you also have the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are 4-4-2, 10 points in 10 games, a -1 goal differential. And you have tonight's opponent, the Buffalo Sabres, who are 4-4-2 as well, 500-point percentage, and a -1 goal differential. The Lightning, however, have won 3 in a row after a really poor start. 2 straight overtime decisions for the Buffalo Sabres. They also had a near disastrous start, going 0-3. And so far, over the last 7 games, they have a record of 4-1-2. So they are really coming on here. They're tonight's opponent, and we'll preview that one more in depth here as the podcast continues. But right now, that is your top 6, all at exactly 500 when it comes to Buffalo, Tampa, Ottawa, Florida, and Toronto, with our Bruins, the lone team, under 500, and with the worst goal differential in the division, coming in at number 8. We'll look at the top 2 teams, preview tonight's game against the Buffalo Sabres here as the podcast continues. Hey, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game or just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps watching every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So if you're keeping count, there are only 2 teams remaining here in our look at the Atlantic Division Power Rankings. Both teams off to fantastic starts. One is the Detroit Red Wings, who are 7-3 through 10 games this season. So that's a 700-point percentage. And they have a goal differential of +4, 2 wins in a row. And they've been doing this largely without Patrick Kane, who's been out of the lineup for the last few games, at least, due to injury. And then that would leave the Montreal Canadiens as your top team in the Atlantic right now. 8-3, 727-point percentage, +7 goal differential, and they have just been rolling as of late. Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Uri Slafkovsky, goaltending of Sam Montembeault, Jacob Dobbs. Like, this team, I thought they were going to be pretty good once again, and they're proving to be just that. Now, it should be noted that, so sometimes on this podcast we talk about PDO, right, which is shooting percentage plus save percentage at 5-on-5, and that kind of gives you a look at whether a team is overachieving or underachieving based on the fact that it usually levels out around an even 100. And you look at the standings right now, PDO teams right at the 100 mark are LA, New Jersey, and they're 15-16 in terms of that particular stat. If you have a number over 500 or 100, it means that you are excelling when it comes to save percentage and usually shooting percentage at the same time. The number 1 team, for reference, is Chicago Blackhawks. They have a 12.5 shooting percentage and a 92.5% save percentage. So they've got a PDO of 1.05. Our Boston Bruins, 9.64 save percentage, 88.35 save percentage, 9.64 shooting percentage. They're down at 980. So the Bruins, with some more saves, some more puck luck at 5-on-5, they should be able to move up a bit. They've got a bit of things working against them. The Ottawa Senators, 974. So if they can get their goaltending back up to par, they should still be in the playoff mix. The Detroit Red Wings are at 963. So even with the amount of success they've had so far, it's also an issue where they're not getting the saves either at 5-on-5. So there is room for them to continue to improve if they get the goaltending. The Montreal Canadiens, on the other hand, elevated shooting percentage, elevated save percentage 5-on-5, so they could fall back down to earth here a little bit. So just some added context there for these early season performances. Now tonight, our Boston Bruins are in action against the Buffalo Sabres. And this is a pretty big game for Boston because, again, they're 5-7, losing record. Even with the win, they'll still be under 500. But the Sabres are extremely vulnerable, and the Bruins have already beaten them 3-1 already this season back on October 11th. The Sabres have lost 2 games in a row, both in overtime, one to Toronto, one to Columbus. Prior to that, they beat Toronto, they beat Detroit, and they've also beaten Florida and Ottawa so far this season. So this is a pretty important game for the Bruins if they want to build on the momentum of that Islanders game and start to get back in the mix with these other 500 teams. The Sabres led in net by Alex Lyon. He's got a record of 3-4-1, but with a 919 save percentage. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen only played in 1 game so far. He's 0-0-1 with an 826 save percentage. And I already talked earlier about the Bruins goaltending situation. They got a pretty balanced offense. Alex Tuch leads the way with 9 points in 10 games. Tage Thompson with 8 points in 10 games. Zach Benson, 7 points in 7 games. And he's joined by Ryan McLeod, youngster Josh Jones, Jason Zucker, Jack Quinn, chipping in as well. And then on the blue line, they have Rasmus Dahlin, who is one of the premier defensemen in the NHL. They have a power play that is going at a 21.9% success rate, which is just slightly worse than Boston's 22%, which puts them in 12th. The Sabres do have the best penalty kill in the NHL. They're killing 91.2% of the opposition's opportunities. The Bruins back up over 80%. They are at 14th. So, special teams will be key. The Bruins need to stay disciplined and also try to break through on this Sabres penalty kill. Faceoffs could be a huge factor. The Bruins are the second-ranked team in terms of faceoff success this season, 54.9%. The Sabres dead last at 41.9%. So the Bruins need to win their faceoffs, especially in the offensive zone. Get possession, start to cycle the puck, and get the puck on net. The Bruins actually have a better offense per game than the Sabres. They're scoring 3.25 goals per game. Sabres are scoring only 3. Sabres better defensively, though, 3.1 goals allowed, whereas the Bruins are allowing 3.67. Morgan Geekie with 6 goals over the last 5 games for the Bruins. David Pastrnak with 7 points to lead the way for this team. He's got 15 points in 12 games. Pavel Zacha, Morgan Geekie, each with 10 points, with Elias Lindholm rounding out the top 4. I bet you can't guess who is the 5th leading scorer on the Boston Bruins right now. It's not Casey Middlestat. It's not Victor Arvidsson, both of whom are on the second line. I should say the 5th highest scoring forward, because Charlie McAvoy is in there with 8 assists so far this season, coming in behind Pastrnak, Zacha, Geekie, and Lindholm. But the 5th highest scoring forward is Mikey Eyssimont, who's got 3 goals, 4 assists in 12 games, despite averaging the second lowest amount of ice time among Bruins forwards so far this season. So he's making the most of his opportunities and giving the Bruins some good depth scoring in a limited role. He was put up on the second line at one point, so maybe we'll see some line shuffling there. Other Atlantic teams in action tonight: the Senators taking on the Flames, Lightning, Stars. You also have the Red Wings out on the West Coast taking on the LA Kings. So that's a quick look at the Atlantic Division power rankings, as well as tonight's game against the Buffalo Sabres. Coming up here, we have to talk about the Providence Bruins, 7-0. Let's take a look at how they're being powered to such a great start here as Locked On Boston Bruins continues. Let's be real. Most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track. And that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. It's helped me organize my accounts, track my spending, get a better handle on investments without having to touch a spreadsheet. Monarch's visual dashboards and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where my money's going and how to make it work harder for me. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. While the Boston Bruins have gotten off to a rough start this season, the Providence Bruins are flying at the moment. They are a perfect 7-0-0 with a plus 16 goal differential so far this season. And they won last night against another previously undefeated team in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton Penguins, to maintain their perfect 100-point percentage this season. Only the Grand Rapids Griffins have been able to equal the Providence Bruins' success so far this season. And when you look at who is rolling for this team right now, you start to wonder whether or not we should see some of these guys up on the big team sometime very soon. You have Riley Tufte, who's got 5 goals, 6 assists in 7 games, 11 total points, 1.57 points per game. You have Georgi Merkulov, 5 goals, 5 assists. Patrick Brown, the veteran, 4 goals, 6 assists. Matej Blumel, averaging more than a point per game with 2 goals and 7 assists. You also have Fabian Lysell, who's got 4 goals, 3 assists. This is all through 7 games. Alex Steeves, 3 goals, 3 assists. Matt Poitras, no goals yet, but 6 assists. Brett Harrison averaging a point per game, 5 points through 5 games. And on it goes. The Boston Bruins, again, the issue hasn't been necessarily scoring for this team. It's more defensive based, but what's the harm in recalling a guy like Riley Tufte, who's been rolling at the the AHL level, and who could potentially make more of an impact than Mark Kastelic or even Marat Husnudinov. Their goaltending down in the AHL has been fantastic as well. Michael DiPietro, 4-0 record with a .914 save percentage. Simon Zajac, 3-0 with a .939 save percentage. At the very least, I wouldn't mind seeing, if the Bruins lose tonight, say, we could see a situation where you are forced to make a recall here, forced to shake things up a little bit. I wouldn't mind seeing Riley Tufte up here. Perhaps you put him on the third line with Fraser Minton, Tanner Jeannot, Husnudinov, in and out of the lineup. The fourth line right now, Asimont, Kuraly, Kastelic. Kuraly or Kastelic could be given a night off. There's a lot of options here, but the Providence Bruins, these guys were sent down with the kind of mandate to, hey, you didn't step up enough during the preseason, whatever that was worth. You are excelling at the AHL level. You're understanding the assignment. You went down, you accepted it, and you came out firing to begin the season. And hey, things aren't working as much at the NHL level for some of these guys. Let's change things up here a little bit. And I know Marco Sturm last week said that, these are the guys we have. This is what we're rolling with. But it's very easy to be able to send some of these guys down to the AHL. Minton Fraser is the only guy on the NHL roster who is waiver exempt. But and there are some concerns that, you try to send down Jeffrey VL, probably not, but a John Beecher or a Husnudinov, that these guys would get scooped off the waiver wire. Sean Kuraly's proving to be a reliable fourth-line center. Those are probably the only guys that you would swap. So I would say, send VL on waivers, put him down, call up at least a Riley Tufte, who is playing so well at the NHL level. He's 27 years old, so it's not like you are, promoting a rookie. He does have some NHL experience, playing 6 games last year for the Bruins, no points, 5 games for the Avs, several games for the Dallas Stars, 24 NHL appearances, 2 goals, 1 assist, a bit of a journeyman, a bit of a career minor leaguer, but he's playing extremely well, and he could bring a lot of the elements that the Bruins are looking for in terms of two-way play, piss and vinegar, and scoring as well. So if the Bruins lose tonight, VL has played limited minutes. I think it's worth exploring at least that recall. But huge congratulations to the Providence Bruins for this amazing start to the season. And Riley Tufte is my Bruin of the day based on the fact that he is leading this team in scoring. They play once again on Saturday. And again, the Bruins last night, Providence Bruins, beating the previously undefeated Scranton Wilkes-Barre Penguins. Patrick Brown with 2 assists, Brett Harrison, Riley Tufte, Georgi Merkulov all scored. DiPietro, 25 saves to earn the victory. This team is just rolling at the moment. Tufte with points in his last 5 games, 11 points in that span. Harrison and Merkulov, goals in back-to-back games. Franchise best start, 7-0-0-0. And next up for them will be the Hershey Bears, who are the Washington Capitals AHL team. All right, that is it for today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me here today, making it your first listen. Please do check out the Locked On NHL Game Night podcast next. There was only 1 game in the NHL last night, but they'll have it all covered every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. You can find that on the Locked On NHL podcast feed and on YouTube. Please subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube if you have not done so already. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day. Take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you again here tomorrow to recap the game against the Sabres, bring you all the storylines, stats, and significance, and all the latest on the black and gold here on Locked On Boston Bruins, your favorite team every single day.